You've been running your business on everyone else's rules. Launch this way, post that way, hustle harder, don't slow down. In this episode, I'm handing you 5 permission slips that let you change your mind about offers that no longer fit, simplify your tech and funnels, get the right help, go at your pace, and do it your own way in 2026. If your business looks fine on the outside, but it feels heavy on the inside, this one's for you. Many years ago, I had a coach who was very wise. She taught me a lot of really, really valuable models. And at the time, I didn't always understand them. They were quite abstract. So I'd write them down, I'd nod my head and pretend that it all made sense. And then later think, wait, what? How does this actually apply to my life? But as I've built my business and as I've just become, I guess, older and hopefully wiser, I've realized how powerful some of these models actually were. And there's one in particular that I want to share with you today because it's so simple. It's just a basic quadrant model, right? 4 little boxes. But it explains how humans mature. And you can apply it to babies becoming toddlers, becoming children. I'm currently very much applying it to children becoming teenagers and trying to turn them into decent, half decent, regular looking, dressing properly, not watching inappropriate TV, not texting their friends in the middle of the night. Humans, it's hard. And you can apply these models to entrepreneurship and to the journey we take as entrepreneurs to mature. Basically, anytime we grow up as humans, we tend to move through these 4 stages. And I want to walk you through it because it has everything to do with the permission slips I'm going to give you in this episode. So the 4 stages of growth. I want you to picture a square divided into 4 quadrants. We start in quadrant 1, bottom left, dependence. It's where we all begin. As humans, this is where we're babies and toddlers. We literally cannot survive without someone else. As entrepreneurs, this is where we're brand new in business. We don't know what we don't know. So what do? We buy all the courses. We are dependent on other people to teach us the systems, the processes, the marketing secrets, the webinar structures, here's exactly what you need to do step-by-step formulas. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need that in the dependence phase. When you're in dependence, you need someone to hold your hand, to give you templates and to spell it out. Then we move to stage 2, bottom right, which is rebellion. As humans, this is when we become toddlers or when we become teenagers. You know that moment when your 2-year-old learns the word no, or when a teenager suddenly decides their parents know absolutely nothing about life. Yeah, that. As entrepreneurs, we hit rebellion when we get to a point where we think, I cannot buy another course. I'm done. We start to see the cracks in the step-by-step systems we were taught. We realize, maybe this thing doesn't quite work exactly like that in my niche, or that strategy doesn't entirely fit my life or my values. Or this launch plan assumes I have a team of 12, which I don't. By this stage, we've had enough exposure and enough experience that we're ready to abandon some of the dependency from stage 1. And honestly, that's really what today's about. Today's about giving you permission to let go of some of what you learned in the first dependent stage and to start standing more firmly on your own 2 feet. From there, we move into stage 3, which is the top left quadrant. And this one is called independence. In human life, it's young adulthood. You move out, you get your own place. You realize you can, in fact, cook something other than toast. I still can't, but most people can. In entrepreneurship, independence is when you're making some money and you've tested some things. You've learned a lot and you can implement without needing someone to hold your hand every step of the way. This is usually when you stop needing pure how-to courses and you start joining things like masterminds because your need has changed. It is no longer tell me exactly which button to press. It becomes help me think at a larger level. Surround me with peers. Let's bounce ideas around as equals. And then we get to stage 4, which is interdependence. And this is the sweet spot. In human life, this is that moment in your 30s when you suddenly think, maybe my parents weren't complete idiots. Or when you have your own kids and you go, okay, maybe I was a bit hard on them as a teenager. Let me go ask them how to deal with these kids I have now so I can interdependent be with them and with my own experience. You've developed your own way of doing things, but you can also appreciate other people's way of doing things. You don't need to reject everything to feel like an adult anymore. In business, interdependence is when you have your own frameworks and your own voice and your own way of running things, and you trust yourself. And you can still plug into other people's systems, their courses, their coaching, their communities when you want to, and appreciate their frameworks. Then you can go back to your stuff and your online courses with new eyes and take what you need and leave what you don't need. It's when you say, okay, this piece still serves me, but that one doesn't. That part doesn't fit me anymore, and that's okay. I can integrate these ideas into my system and let go of the rest. Interdependence is what we're really aiming for. It's that place where you stand on your own feet, you trust your own thinking, and you also know how to lean on others in a healthy, empowered way. And actually, this episode is part of something bigger. As you know, over the next few weeks, we're doing a 12-week episode series called Building Your Freedom Empire, Business and Mindset Strategies for 2026. And every Tuesday and Thursday through November and December, we're diving deep into what it really takes to build a business that gives you freedom, not just revenue. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss any of these episodes. They're all designed to work together to help you close out this year really strong and step into 2026 with clarity, confidence, and with a solid plan. So why am I telling you about this model and about this series? The reason I'm sharing this model with you is because today we're talking about permission slips. And the permission slips I'm going to give you in this episode are designed to help you move along that path. For you, it might look like moving from dependence into a healthy bit of rebellion, or from rebellion into solid independence, or from independence into that beautiful place of interdependence. So wherever you are right now is okay. There is no better or worse here. There's just growth. And my hope is that the permission slips you hear today will help you throw off what's no longer serving you, embrace what does serve you, and stand more fully on your own feet as a CEO. Now, here's the important part. These permission slips are not your stock standard, uh, apply to everybody advice from a coach. They're not the latest bro marketer advice on Instagram. They're not from that person you follow who makes $1 million while drinking green smoothies on the beach. These permission slips I'm sharing with you today are permission slips from you to you, with me in your ear, backing you all the way. Because here's what I already know about you. I know that you're smart. I know you care deeply about your students and about your clients. I know that you work hard and you're not lazy. And I know that you are absolutely 100% not behind. But you might be tired, even exhausted from trying to keep up with rules that were never designed for you in the first place. So today I'm going to walk you through a series of permission slips you are totally allowed to cash in, starting right now. And by the end of this episode, you'll have a simpler way to think about your business, a little less guilt, and a lot more breathing room, and a clear sense of what you're allowed to drop, to change, or to do your way in 2026 and beyond. Cool? All right, let's dive in. Permission slip number 1. You have permission to change your mind. Let me tell you how this showed up in my business. The last time I launched A-Lister, which was really our flagship course for learning Facebook and Instagram ads, was October 2023. And I knew after that launch that I was going to have to make some updates. There had been a lot of changes inside Ads Manager, a lot of shifts in the algorithm, and I could feel that the content needed a refresh. But at the same time, I had other priorities. I had to update a couple of other courses I teach. I had Amy Porterfield's Facebook ads training that I do every year, and that alone kept me busy for a few months. And by the time I had re-recorded both of Amy's courses, the thought of re-recording my own course felt really heavy. I wasn't excited. It wasn't inspiring. It was just heavy. I was completely uninspired by the idea of doing it all again for the third time in 1 year just to rebrand it. But because I knew A-Lister needed changes, I started promising students that I would record it. People would ask, "Are you launching A-Lister soon?" And I'd say, "Yep, it's coming. We're going to re-record it and then we'll open the cart." And even at the beginning of this year, I still found myself in this bind. On the one hand, I wanted to tell students and people inquiring, "Yes, it's coming, hang tight." On the other hand, I felt more and more like I just don't wanna. Like full toddler energy, right? One of my kids recently didn't want to go to a swimming carnival, and that's exactly how I felt in my body. I was like, I just don't wanna. And I realized in business, we often push that "I don't wanna" voice way down. And on Tuesday's episode, I talked about doing a joy audit. And if I had to do a joy audit on my business at that stage, A-Lister would not have passed. It would have completely flunked the joy test. I was procrastinating on it so much that my own procrastination became the problem. Because here's the truth. I did want to launch a course. I did want to teach what's in my head. I did want to help people with ads. I just didn't want it to be about list building or just filling your webinar with leads. Only about that front end. I wanted it to be more. And when I finally sat down and gave myself an honest permission slip, I said, "Okay, you're allowed to create a course, but you're also allowed to let it be about what you want it to be about." And that's when the idea for Scale with Ads was born. A course that brings together everything I know about creating hot offers, building funnels that actually convert, and then running ads to those funnels in a smart and sustainable and profitable way. And the moment I allowed myself to change my mind about A-lister and create something new, something shifted. Suddenly, my passion for teaching Facebook ads was back. My desire to get out of my head and into a course was back. I didn't mind re-recording things. I didn't mind teaching ads again because now there's joy in it for me again. Joy in what I'd be teaching, joy in what students would be implementing, joy in the results they'd be getting. But here's the thing. To get there, I had to go back and tell people, A-lister isn't coming out. And that was what this first permission slip is all about for you. You have permission to change your mind. Even if you said it's coming, even if it used to be your flagship, even if people are asking for the old thing, you're allowed to notice when something no longer brings you joy and to listen to that voice, that toddler that says, I don't wanna. And to create the thing that actually reflects who you are now, not who you were 5 years ago. So that's permission slip 1. You're allowed to change your mind. And I have a quick win for you. If you want to open your notes app right now and write down one thing you've been forcing yourself to do that you don't actually want to do anymore. Just one. It could be a course you promised to create, a platform you said you'd be consistent on, or a service you're tired of offering. Write it down and next to it, write, I'm allowed to change my mind about it. And then figure out what you're going to do. Because, you still need the revenue. You need to figure out what you're going to replace it with. But you are allowed to change your mind. So that's permission slip number 1. Permission slip number 2, you have permission to simplify your business. Let me give you another example from my business. Earlier in the year, I got that absolutely delightful email from ActiveCampaign telling me they were increasing my price again for about the 3rd time in 3 years. And suddenly, I was looking at paying something like $5,000 US, which is around 7,000 Aussie dollars just for one software platform. And I was like, it just scratched at me. I was sad and I was angry for a moment. And I definitely felt a bit trapped. And then I remembered, I'm not a victim in my own business. I have more control than I think I have, or than I remember I have. And at that point, I'd been using ActiveCampaign for 7 years. So 7 years of tags, segments, automations, lists, old campaigns, layer upon layer upon layer of structure. There was a lot in there. And I realized something really important. The difference between what I could do with a tool like ActiveCampaign versus what I could do with a simpler tool like Kit. It didn't justify the price tag of ActiveCampaign or the level of complexity I'd gotten used to managing in ActiveCampaign. So I had to give myself permission to simplify, permission to clean things up, let go of some super fancy bells and whistles automations that weren't really adding much value, and be okay with having access to a slightly simpler automation system, because in exchange, I'd be saving thousands of dollars a year. So I made the decision and I moved to Kit. And I am so glad I did. Was it a painful change? Yes. Did it require time and effort and decisions I didn't really feel like making? Also, yes. But I love the enforced simplicity it's created for me. because I don't have access to some of those really, really, really fancy automation tricks anymore, I've had to make my tagging lean, make my automations clean, focus on what actually matters. And honestly, it has freed up so much space for me. I'm loving it. My brain feels lighter, my system feels cleaner, my team can understand what's going on without needing a PhD in Salome's ActiveCampaign brain. And that's what this second permission is about. You have permission to simplify. You're allowed to choose simpler tools, run simpler funnels, use fewer tags, have fewer offers, fewer moving parts, even if it means letting go of clever, complex systems you're proud of and choosing something that looks maybe a little basic from the outside, but actually gives you your time, your money, and your sanity back. Complex doesn't always mean advanced. Sometimes complex just means clutter. So if there's an area in your business where you're carrying a lot of complexity, your tech stack, your funnels, your offers, your content schedule, this is your permission slip to ask, what would this look like if it were simple? And then let yourself actually choose the simpler version. And now I want you to take a look at your tech stack today, all the tools and platforms you're paying for every month. And then find one you're either not really using or using out of some emotional guilt thing, or I should have, or my mentor uses it, or like any kind of should use. I should use this anymore. Should I use this anymore? Any of those. Look at those. Or anything you could replace with something simpler at a lower cost. Put a date on your calendar, like 30 days from now, to either cancel it or replace it. Just one tool. Find one. That's your first simplification project. Permission number 2. You have permission to get the right kind of help. Let me share a story from one of my mentoring students. The other day, she said to me, I'm so frustrated. My VA just resigned and now I'm doing everything myself again and it's so slow. And I get it. That is a real challenge. When you've relied on someone for a long time to publish your content, to schedule your emails, to upload your lessons, whatever it is, and suddenly they're not there. It can feel like a whole business has fallen back on your shoulders. And as we talked it through, something really interesting came up. I noticed that a lot of the things she was missing her VA for didn't actually require a full-time, long-term VA to do them. There were things like repeating the same task every week with only tiny changes. Simple uploads, a few design bits, admin tasks that could be templated or standardized. And so I said to her, look, you absolutely can hire another VA if that's what you want. But we also got other options, and we realized that some of those tasks could be turned into some simple templates, so they're faster and easier for anyone to do. Some could be handed to a specialist on Fiverr or Upwork just for that one task, instead of hiring someone for everything. Some could be batched once a month instead of nibbling away at her time every single week. Just making those small shifts would already save her hours. And more importantly, it would give her back the feeling that she's in control. She's not at the mercy of whether one specific person is available or not. And that's what this permission slip is about. You have permission to get help in ways that actually match the kind of help you need right now. Support doesn't have to look like a big hire or a full-time VA or a giant monthly retainer. You're allowed to use templates, hire tiny bits of help for specific tasks, pay for one-off projects instead of long-term contracts, Mix and match support so that it fits your budget and your season. You also have permission to be creative in how you get help. So instead of asking, can I afford a full-time VA again? Try asking, where do I really need support? What could be templated? What could I give a freelancer for 1 hour a week? What actually needs me and what doesn't? You don't have to do everything yourself, and you don't have to overhire either. You're allowed to build a support system that feels light, flexible, and right-sized for where you are right now. So here's something I want you to do. Make a list of 3 tasks that are draining your time this week. And for each one, ask, could this be a template that someone else can rinse and repeat? Could this be a one-off hire on Fiverr or Upwork? Or could this be batched? And then pick one task and solve it with the smallest possible intervention. Not a full hire, just the right-sized help for that specific thing. Permission slip number 4. You have permission to go at your own pace. Let me tell you something I've really only learned in the last couple of years. After I was diagnosed with ADHD, and after I made a very conscious decision that I want to build my business in a way that I'll still love 10 years from now, not in a way where I'm sprinting and burning out every 6 months, I realized something that would have horrified my younger self. Boring, predictable, systematized, clean, repetitive. Those things in a business are actually really, really sexy. The hustle looks attractive. The race to 6 figures, 7 figures, next level, next level, next level, it feels exhilarating. It feels like you're always playing catch up, chasing the next hit of validation. But you know what? Slowly and steadily really does win the race. There's nothing that sucks quite as hard as this. You finish a big launch or a big project. You hustled your face off. You pulled late nights. You did all the things. And then you realize you didn't put a single thing in place to replicate that process or that result without hustling your face off again next time. Nothing recorded, no systems, no documentation, no templates, nothing your future self or your team can lean on. Just exhaustion. And the pressure to do it all over again. And I learned this the hard way. I had to slow myself down. I had to force myself to document what we were doing, systematize the steps, create the templates, make sure the second time we did something, it was easier than the first. Not just so I could do it again more easily, but so other people could help me do it. And that's what this permission slip is about. You have permission to go at your own pace and prioritize sustainable, repeatable systems over frantic speed. You're allowed to move slower so you can build properly. Take an extra week to document as you go. Choose boring but repeatable over dramatic and unsustainable. Optimize for how you will feel in 10 years, not just how impressive it looks on Instagram next week. Your business doesn't have to feel like an emergency all the time. You're allowed to build it like something you're going to keep. So look at your calendar for the next week and figure out your total available work hours. Now multiply that by 0.6. That's your 60% capacity number. So if you have 40 hours available, that's 24 productive hours. Now look at what you've committed to and ask, does this fit into 24 hours? If the answer is no, what can you move? What can you delegate or delete? This isn't about being lazy, it's about being sustainable. Permission slip number 5. You have permission to do it your way. When I first started out online, one of the things I was most self-conscious about was my accent, which looking back now is honestly hilarious. Today, I could not be bothered less about my accent. Zero cares given. But when I started, most of the people I attracted were Americans. And I had a whole story in my head that I don't sound American. I don't even really sound Australian either. And my South African friends tell me I don't sound South African anymore, although some Aussies tell me I sound very Australian. South African. So my brain decided that clearly my accent is going to be a problem. Now, today, I don't even spend a microsecond thinking about it. But here's the thing. Even though I don't care about my accent anymore, other insecurities still pop up. Because that's what our brains are designed to do. They serve up insecurities like it's their full-time job. You know, I'm 10 years older than when I started. So now when I hit record on the camera, the first question that pops into my head is, do I look tired? Is this angle weird? Should I have done my hair differently? Do I have big enough eyelashes? And I fucking hate false eyelashes. Different season, different nonsense, right? But here's what I've learned. Very few, if any, of the people in your audience are going to be obsessing over the things you feel insecure about. They're not sitting there analyzing your accent or your hair or your background or the dark circles under your eyes or your age. They care about, can you help me? Do I trust you? Do I feel safe and seen by you? And if they're judging anything, it's probably stuff you haven't even thought to be insecure about, which just proves how pointless it is to try to manage it all. So you may as well put all of those insecurities in the same basket and decide, okay, cool, you can all come along for the ride, but you don't get to drive the bus. And instead of trying to be a copy-paste version of someone else online, just show up real, human, slightly messy, fully you. Because your people, the ones you're here to serve, they're not looking for a perfect, polished clone of whoever is trending on Instagram. They're looking for you, your voice, your stories, your way of doing things. And that's what this last permission slip is all about. You have permission to do it your way, to sound like you, to look like you, to think like you, and to build it like you. Not the so-called industry standard way, your way. The more you lean into that, the easier everything else becomes. So think about one thing you've been doing in your business because that's how it's done, but it doesn't actually feel like you. Maybe it's the way you're showing up on social, the format of your emails. Maybe it's the structure of your offers or how you're pricing things. Write down this question. What would this look like if I did it my way? Just brainstorm. You don't have to change anything today, but give yourself permission to imagine what your version would look like. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one permission slip. Just one. Is it permission to change your mind? Permission to simplify? Permission to get the right kind of help? Permission to go at your own pace? Permission to do it your own way? Which one are you going to give yourself today? Once you know, I want you to actually write it down. Grab a real piece of paper and write, in 2026, I give myself permission to, and then choose your one. Then I want you to put it somewhere you'll see it again, in your desk drawer, in a little special container, or use it as a bookmark in your journal. Somewhere future you will stumble across it in 2026 and go, oh, yeah, that's what I promised myself. Because that permission slip, that becomes your North Star for 2026. That's the thing you keep coming back to, the thing you keep giving yourself permission for over and over and over again. My hunch is, whichever permission slip you choose, that's the one your soul is probably craving. That's the one that's going to bring the joy back into your business. That's the one that will help you do the things you do and the things you want to do, and stop doing the things you really don't want to do anymore. It might be the thing that nudges you to make a significant structural change, or simplify something that feels too heavy, or hire differently, or finally trust yourself to do it your way. So write it down, claim it, and let that one permission slip be the tiny, powerful thing you use to keep building your freedom empire. And there's one more thing I want you to do this week. Schedule 30 minutes on your calendar called Permission Slip Power Hour. During that time, you're going to choose your one slip and do the quick win action for that slip. Write down 3 specific ways you're going to apply this permission slip in your business over the next 90 days. Don't skip this. 30 minutes of intentional permission could change your entire 2026. Now, if this episode felt like a deep exhale to you, if you're sitting there thinking, oh my word, I needed to hear this, I'd love you to do 2 things. Number 1, screenshot this episode and share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at _launch_lounge. And write, my permission slip is. Fill in the blank with the one you choose. I love seeing which one lands for you. Number 2, send this episode to a friend who's being way too hard on themselves. Someone who also needs a permission slip to build their business in 2026 in a way that brings them joy, that brings them profit, and that brings them deep satisfaction and helps them make a bigger impact. Because sometimes the kindest thing we can do for each other is say, hey, you're allowed to do this differently. So pass the permission on. So remember this. You don't need anyone else to stamp your form and tell you that you're allowed to build the business you actually want. You've already started doing this by listening to this episode, by choosing a permission slip, by even entertaining the idea that things could feel lighter, simpler, more you in 2026. You are not behind, and you're not late. You are right on time for your journey. Every business you look up to has built on a long string of tiny, quiet decisions like the one you made today. The decision to change your mind, the decision to simplify, the decision to get help, the decision to slow down and systematize, the decision to show up as your real self. The decisions don't always look sexy from the outside. They look like saying no to something that drains you. They look like canceling a launch that doesn't feel aligned. They look like finally documenting the system, finally hiring help, finally trusting your own voice. But those are the decisions that build a business you can actually live inside of. A business you're still proud to run 10 years from now. A real freedom empire. So as you walk back into your day, I want you to picture future you in 2026. She's a little calmer. She's a little clearer. She trusts herself more. She's sitting in a business that feels more like home than a hamster wheel. And she's looking back at you, today you, with so much gratitude because you were the one who decided, I'm allowed to do this differently. So keep that permission slip close. Come back to this episode when you need a reminder. And the next time your brain tries to drag you back into hustle comparison or I should country, I want you to hear my voice in your ear saying, you're allowed to build this your way. You're allowed to take your time. You're allowed to create something that feels good and works. You are more capable than you think, and you are further along than you feel. And you are absolutely the right person to build this freedom empire. I'm cheering for you every step of the way. Next Tuesday, we're continuing the series with episode number 327, The Real Cost of DIY, and when to invest in help for your business. And remember, this is part of a 12-part series running through November and December, every Tuesday and Thursday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of these episodes. They're all designed to help you build your freedom empire in 2026 with more profit, more joy, and a whole lot less burnout. So I'll see you next week. Bye. Before you go, if today's episode helped you, imagine how many more lives could be transformed if other creators, coaches, and experts found these strategies too. Your shares and reviews help more course creators discover how to get their knowledge out into the world. Please take a moment to rate the show and leave a quick review. When you do, we get to reach more people and we make a bigger impact together. Because when more people who help people succeed, the world becomes a better place. Thank you.